YouTube, what's up, man? If you guys clicked on this video, it probably wasn't coincidence. The title may have hooked you in. You may have been subscribed or you may be new here, but it's time that I finally kind of start sharing some more long form content, and obviously YouTube is the perfect platform to do so. I've been recently kind of sharing my journey on Instagram and having some traction there with content, but of course wanted to let people know who I am, what got me to where I am today, which in my eyes I still got a long ways to go, but what got me to where I am currently, and just documenting this journey, right? This is something that selfishly for me, I can kind of look back on and remember, I remember when I was in the car, in the Camry, shooting this video type of thing. But this channel, this platform is to serve you guys, right? When I got into entrepreneurship, I kept asking, what is the vehicle that I could use to impact and inspire? I just did not have that figured out. And that's exactly what I want to share with you. And by the end of this video, I think you guys will be able to understand what that is for me and what that means to me. So, if you're tapped in right now, I want you guys to grab, a notebook, almost look at this like a journal session, right? That, a time for you to have free thoughts. Today's Sunday here. It's February 2nd of 2025. I use Sundays as reset days, as recharge days, days to just connect, right? So, I want to go ahead and share some of these things and some of these ideas and thoughts with you guys, put it in long form content. I know I got some other real estate shorts going crazy right now, and I know you guys have tons of questions, and I promise I'm going to share a bunch of real estate dialogue, but right now I want you guys to know who Kendrick Ivey is. So to step back, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Kendrick Ivey. I'm 26 years old. I just turned 26 on the 15th of January. I'm a father. I'm a fiance. I'm a business owner. I am a man of faith that has recently kind of been reconnected with God. I would be lying if I said I've been leading in following his path like I should have been for the past, almost a couple of years, I would say. I kind of fell off of that a little bit, and it's crazy how he can kind of realign you and reconnect you. But before I get too thrown off, again, I'm just regular 26-year-old who's figuring out this thing of life and sharing everything that comes with it. Nothing that I'm doing is special. Obviously, if I am in real estate, and I'll share how I got there, but I just started out as a regular kid. I grew up with my mom. My stepdad raised me. My biological father wasn't in my life as much growing up, and it wasn't more so just his fault. Obviously, that life happens, things happen, things I understand now. But he wasn't in my life, and that played a huge role in my life. Obviously, early on, that I played football, and I would say the passion of the game, or the passion in the void of not having my father there, let me play that sport with a lot of anger. So I played that game up until my 21st year of life, right? I played that game from 6 years old to 21 with passion and with anger, just wanting to prove everybody wrong, prove the world wrong, prove myself right type of thing. And I was pretty decent at it, right? I had that as my identity. That's all I knew. My family only knew me as a football player. Whenever I was around, that was the whole thing. Is like, oh, Kendrick's a football player. When he's a running back, he does this, blah 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 blah. Football, right? That was my identity. And my family, obviously, we come from some humble beginnings. We weren't poor. My stepdad was fortunate to have a decent career that paid well. But obviously, I have 3 other siblings that were with me, younger siblings. And then my mom, who was pretty much staying home taking care of us. So although he was making some decent money, there's still a lot of us that he had to take care of. So, the money did not stretch that far. When I say decent money, I'm talking, 80 to 100 grand that fluctuated throughout the years. So we weren't poor by any means, but we weren't the most well off. And to this day, my parents still do not own a home. And that, caused a lot of moving. I moved around so much in life. And I moved from home to home, from state to state, and I never really had stability as a child because I moved so much. I'm originally from Charlotte. I lived my first 7 years here, and then I moved to Virginia for a year, to Maryland for a year, and then right outside of Philly for 5 years. So I bounced around that whole time. And because of that, one of my skills and skill sets was, being able to meet new people and make great friends. So I still use that today in real estate. I think it's one of the biggest things that's helped me in real estate is that I know how to sit down and connect with a person, because that's all I've been trained to do, right? But to kind of fast forward a little bit, and I give you guys the long story of childhood, right? I had the football identity. I had the identity of moving around. And all of that kind of circles back into why I became an entrepreneur and a developer in the long run, right? I had all these things kind of happen to me growing up, playing football and just having that as an identity, that when I found out that I was having a son, it shifted my whole world, because I was like, man, like I'm 21 years old. I just got what I now know is the love of my life pregnant. But at the time, obviously, we had just recently started dating and reconnecting, because I've known her since childhood. We knew each other, liked each other in middle school type of thing, but then obviously reconnected later on in life, right? That happened in 2020. So the pandemic was happening. I find out I'm having a son, and I feel like the world was stopping, right? Everybody was nervous. Nobody knew what was going on because of the pandemic. And all these things kind of happen. And now I'm like, all right, I'm a college athlete. I'm about to have a son. I got to figure something out, because at this time, athletes were not, there was no NIL in 2020. We weren't getting paid. And I had to figure out a way of income quick. So as we were kind of heading into the season, I remember the feeling of like, man, do I need to actually pursue this the rest of the season, or do I need to sit down with my coach and have a hard conversation? And the answer was revealed to me that I needed to sit down with him and have a hard conversation and basically let him know, like, hey, I got to hang the cleats up, not for me, but for my son to be, because I know I got to provide for him. I spent my whole life with this regret, this anger, this pain of my father not being there, that the last thing I want to do is do that for my son. Say, oh, I'm pursuing this sport, or, I had to continue in football, so I wasn't there for you. So that was that. I hung up the cleats, and for 2 weeks, I had no direction. Literally did not know what I wanted out of life, did not know what was next for me. And I was working for Amazon at the time, driving the delivery vans, and I would go from house to house, and I would deliver in the hood of Charlotte, but I would also deliver in the wealthy part of Charlotte. And it was just like, man, like, why, like, how do people live like this? Like, why can't my family have this lifestyle? Like, not all of these people are pro athletes. So like, I got to figure out what to do next in life if I still want to pursue these things. And ultimately what I did that shifted the trajectory of my life was I stopped listening to music for 10 hours a day as I was delivering those packages. I started listening to podcasts, and listening to podcasts shifted everything, because I started to hear the common denominator in successful people's stories. And one of those common denominators was the books they read, which led me to a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's one of those, oh, everybody says read that, but no, seriously, if you haven't read it, you need to read it. For me, it was an eye-opener, because I was never taught or shown any of those things. So you come across a book like that, and it's like, man, like, why am I working so hard for money when money can work for me? And that book, changed everything. Up until that point, I had worked, jobs my entire life. And that's all I knew was like, if you work hard, you should be good, right? You work all day, you work multiple jobs, you save enough money. Eventually you'll have a little nest egg to the side, and you can figure something else from there. I really didn't even know, honestly. I didn't know the full explanation or definition of a 401k or retirement. I just knew that wasn't for me. Like when I went to Amazon in the mornings and I loaded up my van, I knew those guys that were 50, 60 saying like, hey, if you do this for 30, 40 more years, you're going to be set. You starting young. I'm like, this is not what I want to do, right? I don't want to be at Amazon at 5 in the morning every day waiting for somebody to tell me which direction I'm driving, what packages I'm carrying, etc. It wasn't for me. So that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, opened up my mind. I'm not going to break that book down for you guys. Just go get it if you haven't read it. But that showed me that, okay, there's a smarter way to work. So I immediately started applying for sales positions, fully commissioned, no hourly pay. I didn't want to have anyone paying me hourly, and that's what I landed in. It's not hard to land a sales job. They're always hiring. They always need people because it's a high turn and burn business. So I landed in the sales role. I got into that position, and that job, that career shifted even more for me, right? For the next 9 months, I was going to be selling cell phones, TV, and internet in the back of a Target store. In the beginning, I loved it because I was like, man, I get to just connect with people. I get to, sell products. I'm getting to, talk. This is everything I'm good at. This is perfect. I found my niche. I was still not fulfilled because although I was selling something I didn't really believe or fulfill me, which is cell phones, TV, and internet. We use that stuff every day, but I wasn't passionate about it. I knew from Rich Dad Poor Dad that, the wealthy get into real estate, and that's where I wanted to be. So I was like, how can I do that? And I spent those 9 months, like I said, learning the skill of sales, which for 9 months I had to learn how to feed myself and everything. And it was great. But I knew I had to, again, take another step, the next step, I should say, and take that leap of faith, which was really being my own entrepreneur. Even though I wasn't getting paid hourly, I still had a boss, or I still had a higher sales rep telling me where I'm going, what my day looks like, etc. So finally, I didn't just quit my job there. I actually had put money from my sales position into crypto. I had about 10,000 that I made in profit, which was awesome. And I was like, all right, this is my time. I feel like I'm called to jump out of this. And that's exactly what I did. I did not look back. I did not think twice. I just pulled the trigger. I said, I'm jumping out of this thing. I quit my job. I liquidated the crypto account, and I said, I'm going to figure this thing out. Just like in Rich Dad Poor Dad, there's no rule book to any of this stuff. When people ask me, like, how do you do it, or how did you do it? I quit. I was like, I'm betting on me, and if it doesn't work, then I know I could go and get hired right back at the same place if worst case scenario. So that was the mindset. It was just like, I got to go all in now. At this time, my son Israel is already, here on the earth side, and there's no going back. The longer I wait, the worse it would probably get, and I probably would have never taken action. So I quit. It was a risky decision. I got a phone call coming in. It was a risky decision, but I quit, and I did it, and now I'm forever grateful for that decision because I ended up betting on myself, and it forced me to take action. I had no option. Like, if I didn't succeed, my son wasn't eating, my girl wasn't eating, I wasn't eating, so I had to win. So I did that. I jumped into rental arbitrage and Turo all at the same time, just by being in an environment of people who were talking about those things. And I was like, hey, it seems like it should work. So I got a car within like 21 days of quitting, put it on Turo, and it was making money instantly. Long story short, I had that car for like 2 months. It was making me cash flow each month, but then I had an issue with the car. My mechanic fixed it. He said, yo, Kendrick, if you keep this car, you are going to be in the hole big time. Sell it immediately. I was like, all right, let me get out of this thing. I ended up selling the car for like $2,000 more than I bought it for 2 months ago, just to show you the times we were in 2021. And made profit buying the car, selling the car, and the money it was making monthly. So that was awesome to see, proof of concept, right? But there goes my cash flow. So I then jumped into Airbnb arbitrage, same thing. I was like, I arbitraged a car, let me go arbitrage an apartment. So I went and first time I just went and got another apartment in my personal name, which was not the right thing to do, and rented it out on Airbnb. It ran for a couple of months. I was making crazy money, and then the apartment complex was like, you can't do this. You're breaking your lease. You can't sublet. So that was another thing. 2 months, great cash flow. I think I collected like $8,000 up front. I was telling my boss, I was like, which is my fiance now, I was like, we're gonna get rich off this. Like, this is crazy. We're just gonna keep renting apartments and renting them back out. It's no brainer. It's easy. So that got shut down, but we then figured out you could do it a proper way, which was get a LLC and do it. So we did that. Got a unit in Tampa, got a unit here in Charlotte, and that gave us cash flow for the next year that took care of us. At least we were making enough money to where I didn't have to worry about working. She didn't really have to worry about working, and we could think, which is the most important thing sometimes. Like, I know a lot of people get caught up in like, well, man, like if I quit, what's next? Or, I can't do what you did because I don't have that time. I already have the kids, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, yeah, your situation might not be the exact same as how mine was, but you still have to take the risk. Like, there's risk no matter what. So even though that was my situation and I jumped, like that, some people can jump too. Is you got to look at your situation and say, hey, like, when should I jump, and what makes the most sense of how I do it? Maybe I work still, but I dial back my hours, and I take the other days and I fully focus on me. But to not lose the train of thought and go back to what I was saying, We back because I literally lost my train of thought. I had to pause the video. I was like, yo, like what was I talking about? For you guys, right? You take the leap, right? You're like, I'm not in that same position. I can't just jump and take that leap. Well, yeah, that may not be your case, but you have to set yourself up. You need time to think. And when I say think, you need to be able to make smart decisions. A lot of times we're so caught up in the rat race of things and chasing the next check, we can't even think about anything because the car breaks down or the bills are due and all these things, and credit cards are ran up. All we can think about was, if I make this, once I get this check, I can pay this off. And once I get this check, I can pay this off. But the reality is something's always going to happen that's going to continue to set that timeline back. So you need to do whatever you can do to get into a position where you can think. And being able to think and have your own thoughts and control of time opens up so many more doors. And that's the freedom of being an entrepreneur that I fell in love with. And I knew from then that I would never go back to a job. I was like, you know, I don't care if this doesn't work, I got to figure something out. So through that whole arbitrage thing, I skipped a big part, which was I paid $30,000 in mentorship to a complete stranger that I met on Instagram to learn more about Airbnb arbitrage. And although that guy that I paid the $3,000 to was no real entrepreneur and as such, he showed me, or I showed myself in paying him, that the power of paying for information. And that alone put me in a room with other people who also had to make that investment and bet on themselves. And those are still relationships I have to this day. And through that mentorship, somebody was like, hey, you're in North Carolina, you're out there with Max Maxwell, you're doing this thing, you should know Max Maxwell. And by this time I had heard the name Max Maxwell 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, who is this guy? I don't even know who he is, right? I finally look him up and I see the whole spill of Max Maxwell. He's a guy who's making money in real estate with none of his own cash, and he's made millions wholesaling contracts, taking a piece of paper and turning that paper into millions. I'm like, how do you do this? So I immediately started binging this. This is in December of 2021, and I was like, I need to get into this immediately. So I started to shut down the 2 Airbnbs that we had and was like, let me go all in on figuring out how to wholesale. And that's, it was on and running from there. By January 1st of 2022, I was sitting in somebody else's office as quote unquote an acquisition manager. At the time, I didn't even know that, but I was sitting in the office under somebody with my LLC, not on an hourly pay or anything like that. But if you understand the business, you would understand why. But long story short, I'm in someone's office learning what wholesale real estate is. And that business has changed my life since then, right? January 1st in 2022, I learned what this game of wholesaling real estate was and what real estate really was, because I wasn't doing it with arbitrage. I wasn't owning anything. And that has allowed me to kind of make multiple 6 figures on my way to my first $1 million year in development now, all because I learned that high value skill. And when I look back at the journey so far, even getting up to that point, none of that would have happened if I didn't have my son when I was supposed to have him. In my mind, I was like, I want kids in my 30s, when I'm more established, I'll be married, I'll be ready to go, things will be set up, life will be pitch perfect. That's my plan. Well, God laughs at your plans, and he's like, this is my plan for you. And I didn't want his plan, but that's what I got. And because of that, it made me level up as a human, because the person I was before having my son versus who I am now are night and day. I was a jokester, I was chasing girls, I was doing all the things I shouldn't have been doing, versus now I'm pursuing God, I'm pursuing my family, I'm pursuing all the hard things, but the things that I love, the things that I'm passionate about, the things that are fulfilling. But none of that would have happened without a son, hence the title, having a kid to push me into entrepreneurship. So, all these things had to happen for me to even get to that point. And it's such a huge thing of perspective of how you look at your situation, because you could be looking at yourself and, well, I'm not in that position. This didn't happen to me, I can't get to where you are. Well, that's not true. I'm not anywhere special, by the way, but I am taking steps to becoming the first millionaire in my immediate family and changing the trajectory of our lives. So backtrack again, and if I'm not telling the best stories right now, or my timeline and stuff is off or whatever, it will get better. But this is a free flow channel with no edits. Like, I'm just talking, it's just you and I having a conversation one-on-one. I get DMs all the time about one-on-one conversations, how you get started, whatever, all that stuff. It's right here. From now on, I'm sending this video. You can watch this video and you and I can have this conversation, and you better be letting me know in the comments your thoughts, your questions, connecting with me, because I'm here for you guys, not for me. But yeah, all of that had to happen for me to get to that position in 2022 of learning how to wholesale real estate, which, if you don't know what that is, that's literally just putting, finding off-market properties, whether it's land or houses or mobile homes or whatever. It's finding a house that, isn't listed on the MLS. It's finding it, a distressed seller or distressed property and saying, hey, like, I want to buy that property, and getting a piece of paper, putting it under contract. And then you can assign the rights to that contract to an end buyer who is actually going to fulfill the contract, but you assign it for a higher price. I.e., if I had a house at $100,000 that I found off market, I could sell it, quote unquote, if the numbers are there, at $110,000 to an end buyer, and I get the $10,000 in between. So that's what I did in 2022. I did that for somebody for a couple months. I was getting paid 10%, then realized, hey, can I do this on my own? Can I bring you opportunities? If he was like, no, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. I was like, all right, well, time to do my own thing, which was why I got into entrepreneurship from the beginning. And through that, I met my business partner, Christian, who is a blessing to my life. She's, we're yin and yang to a lot of people, right? We go hand in hand. We do a lot of stuff together. We have fun together. But I got blessed, crossing the path because I was on my path, right? I was already seeking entrepreneurship and real estate, and so was she. So we were connected divinely, right? And because of that, we started to do a couple deals together. They went super successful. We made a lot of money, but like 80 grand in the first couple deals. And then we were like, all right, what's next? So we formed our wholesale business. And from there, there's so much more to share, which I'm not going to do on this video. But I do want to bring this all back full circle to let you know where I am today. Is I have now made multiple six figures with Christian in my business. We are now developing single families, as you see on YouTube, and we're growing. We're going to be doing and building much, much, much bigger stuff. But now is the time that I need to document long form content and bring you guys along with me to share the journey, to share the background, to share the behind the scenes, the good, the bad, the ugly of what we do and how we do it. Share the journey as a father, share the journey of what it looks like to not have balance, because there is no balance. It's just every day is different, but we're working and building something in our control, which is the most important thing in entrepreneurship. You control yourself, you control your time, and it's a blessing to have that opportunity. So I will be sharing more. I'm not going to tell you guys how consistent this stuff is going to be, but I told you guys I would get a long form video. I just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so shout out to all you guys, the few of you that are here. I appreciate you guys. Let's keep growing together. But this is my journey so far, right? I'm just, like I said in the beginning, a regular 26-year-old father, just out here hustling and grinding and documenting the journey. It's nothing special. Trust me. It may sound cliche, but you can do the exact same thing. The only difference between you and I, if you aren't doing it, is I just chose to bet on myself, and you still haven't done that yet. You still haven't done it yet. So you guys let me know what you want to hear from me, what you want to learn from me. This was a raw, unedited video that I just shot on my iPhone and threw up here. So yes, camera quality probably could get better, audio could probably get better, visual could probably get better, stuff like that. But I want you guys to tell me what you need from me. What do you need to hear? What do you need to know? What's going to help you get from where you are today to where you want to be, and how I can assist with that. I appreciate you guys for tapping into the video. I'm super excited to keep sharing this journey with you. Like, comment, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.